Hello, welcome to episode 9 of the David Addison Show. 1 away from 10. That's how numbers work, innit? What do you reckon? 10 and done? Are you enjoying these podcasts? Should I keep going? One more and then call it quits? Who knows? Give me some feedback, comment down below. In between episode 8 and now, I went to London, went to this media and technology production conference event thing, and got to meet the Reflex team in person for the first time. It was their idea, actually. They invited me down. I said yes, went with Roxy and spent a day with them. It was really nice. It was weird, weird in a nice way, because I don't know about you, but you compartmentalize people, don't you? So me, like, the best example I have is when I left England to go and work abroad on the ships and things like that, and when I went to work and live in Romania as well. You have like ship people, and then you have like home people, and then you have Romania people. Do you know what I mean? And when they, and they're separate, but when they intersect, it's weird. So I'll see now when ships dock in Liverpool, I'll go and visit ship people, and I have to purposefully pronounce the P in ship, otherwise it sounds like I'm saying shit people. So when the ships dock and I go and visit ship people and I'm walking around Liverpool with them, it's weird. It's like, you're not supposed to be here, So yeah, with the whole seeing the Reflex guys in the conference, it's like, I'm in England, you are YouTube. You've been compartmentalized into the YouTube section, but you're here in England. So it was nice. And I was approached by a few people who say that they listen to this podcast. I mean, thank you for putting up with this level of drivel. But seriously, thank you. It's really nice when I see comments, and not to take away from nice comments and things, but it's not the same as seeing someone in person and having them approach and say, I enjoy the show. And it's weird, especially over the last couple of years, like reducing people to avatars and profile pictures and things like that. It's just, I hate it. I really, really hate it. And I'm not the most social person in the world. I'm like introverted. I like to keep to myself. But just for me, seeing everyone come together at this conference was really, really great. And having people come up to me and have a conversation with them, every video I make, I have the audience in mind. I make it for the audience. So to see the actual people in the audience is wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And I'd love to meet some more of you. There's a few people who I speak to on Instagram who, they live in the UK. I'm open to, meeting up, whatever, it's nice. I like to travel around different towns and different cities. So yeah, don't be shy. What else? I got London. London. Yeah. So this conference was in London, and I found London really inspiring. I came back very, very inspired, ready to go. Definitely got the itch again to make videos and things like that. So, like, I'm pretty much ready to pull the trigger anytime on a new YouTube video. That will be being back is then like complete. I've done a couple of podcasts. I'm taking photos for Instagram. And then to complete the backness, I must upload a YouTube video. What's it going to be about? Help me out. Again, comment below. Let me know. One of my favorite YouTubers says that. If you know who it is, again, leave a comment. Comment below. Let me know. So yeah, like there's been a few interesting developments recently within the mobile photography sphere that I'd be interested in making a video about, but completely open. I'm not I don't have anything, concrete. So yeah, leave a comment. Right, today we have another guest. His name is Martin Adolfsson from Sweden, and Martin is a very interesting guy. He's a photographer. Now lives in New York City. Produced some really wonderful photographs, like very deceptively simple photographs, particularly in one set of his works. And he's also part of a team. Him and one other guy have made an app. Now I'm going to pronounce it because I'm English. I'm going to pronounce it as Minutiae. Let's see how he pronounces it. And it's I'm going to get into what the app is in the podcast. I'm going to ask Martin to take us through it. But I also want to talk about Martin as a photographer, how he got into photography, because I want to learn. These podcasts are the same. I want to speak to these people because I want to learn from them. But I'm going to keep it short. We're just going to talk about minutiae today rather than get into Martin as a photographer, because I feel that's like a 2-hour podcast. There's the minutiae side of things. Then there's Martin and him and his photography journey side of things as well. And I don't want to cram it all into one podcast. So if you folks like this, again, use that comment section, use your little fingers, tap on the keyboard. And I'm so sorry. And let me know what you want to see. If you like the conversation today, feel free to leave a question for Martin when, hey, maybe he hates me. Maybe he's not even going to want to come back and talk to me again, and we will all lose out. But let's see. I've never... what I like about doing this podcast is so far I met Ben Sandowski, who is from California. We've had Mario, he's German. We've had Natalie from Manchester, Shane from Australia. We've had Majd, who's from Syria originally. Now we've got Martin from Sweden. It's an truly international podcast. Lawrence Bouchard from England, but moved to Tokyo, So great, I love it. I want to learn from international audience. But anyway, I've not actually had a conversation with Martin yet. He is scheduled. What time is it? It is 20 minutes to 6. I'm going to send Martin the link to the conversation in a few minutes. And yeah, let's go over there for you right now. So let's get going. Martin Adolfsson. All of a sudden, I become very official when I hit record. We go no from pressure, first name basis. Yeah. I'm just like, yeah, Martin, just keep talking to me casually. Martin Adolfsson, welcome to the podcast. So, welcome. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me and just having a chat just before I hit record. Then you're a really interesting guy, and I said in my intro that I've already recorded about how there's so many different sides to you, and I'm interested in your your journey, because anyone who's basically moved from one country to another I instantly find interesting. So, and especially as a photographer as well, some of your work is just, especially with your Suburbia project, just what was the name of that one?
Yeah, it's called, first of all, thank you for having me. The name of the project is called Suburbia Gone Wild.
That's the one, yeah. Excellent stuff. Yeah. I just found myself just really compelled by it. The photos are just deceptively simple. Simple. You know what I mean? It's like I don't feel like 1 hour is enough to go into the Minutiae app and you as a photographer. So I'm just going to talk about Minutiae today. And if you'll indulge me, I want to start by reading the manifesto, the Minutiae manifesto. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Go for it.
And as an English person, I would say it Minutiae. Is that how you intended it to be said?
You know what? That's a very good question. It's actually a terrible name for an app and for a project, so no one knows how to pronounce it. even native English speakers, I say minutia. I'm sure it's not the way it's supposed to be pronounced. I blame it on my being Swedish. Yeah, you probably know how to pronounce it more accurately than what I do.
No, I don't own language. You go for it. You say it however you want to say it, man. It's
Yeah.
I like the name though. I just find it hard to spell it. It's not one that goes into the muscle memory particularly easily.
It's terrible, and especially so much of App Store is based on just easy names that people remember. There's a reason why most startups have like 4 or 5 letters in the words. Yeah, when me and my co-creator created it in 2015, none of us had ever done an app or had any experience about technology or app development. And the app, the name fitted really well with the concept, and we just like instantaneously was like, yes, that's the name. But yeah, it's a terrible name for an app project, that's for sure.
No, I like it, to be honest. It forces you to. It's like Halide. When I first saw that, I'm like, hey Halide, hey, how is this thing even said? And so I pronounce it Halide. The developer Ben, he pronounces it Halide. So it really doesn't matter. It's a great name, as we'll get into. And for you watching and listening, if you don't know what the hell we're on about with this minutia thing, you're about to know. Okay, let me read the manifesto for minutia. Especially if you're not a fan of social media, then you will like this. Okay, so it says, you are not, and feel free to interject, Martin, at any time if you want to.
Absolutely.
So the manifesto is, you are not your timeline. Social media was supposed to keep us in touch with our friends, but it has instead turned us all into unwitting monkeys, filling out the world's longest consumer survey. I love it. Facebook doesn't want your money. It wants your time. Minutia is a response to our current moment, an anonymous anti-social media app that forces its users to document in between moments of life, a collaboration between artist and participant that retrieves forgotten moments and celebrates the ordinary. Minutia is not a normal app. Minutia does not provide instant gratification. Love that. Minutia is not interested in your data. Minutia will not increase your efficiency. Are you sold yet? Minutia is not a popularity contest. Minutia is, let's be honest, not for everyone. Minutia is your automated self-portrait. Minutia is random moments. Minutia is forgotten memories. Minutia is life, real life, uncurated, unfiltered, unfollowed. Minutia is a marathon, not a sprint. So that is the manifesto. Are you curious yet? So that's a great manifesto. But based on that, Martin, please tell us, what is minutia? How does it work? Please.
Sure. So I can begin with a little bit of background. So the idea to the concept was initially born in 2015. I was part of an incubator here in New York. And I met another artist, and we began talking about the kind of the in-between moments, the non-highlights, and how and why it was so hard to document them. And this kind of notion of the moments that are everyday and ordinary, and we're kind of back and forth about this kind of concept. And initially we had a couple of different ideas about maybe, rigging cameras across different places in New York City that you wouldn't normally think of as like important, at least for someone who lives here. And then after a bit of more conversation, we realized, well, of course, let's make an app that makes sense. Everyone wears, you wear your phone with you all the time. It has a great camera in it. And it allows you to receive notifications. So that was kind of the foundation of it. And in the beginning, we didn't really know how or when or what the logic should be behind capturing these moments. After all, what's a mundane, ordinary moment for me right this minute might not be an ordinary moment for you at this very minute. So we went kind of back and forth, and we couldn't really figure it out. And then, like a kind of one of those eureka moments, I realized that, why don't we send out a notification, a push notification, to all participants around the world at the exact same minute, regardless of time zone. So that way you would kind of be forced to just capture whatever's in front of you there and then. Now, given that the notification goes out to all participants around the world, that means that some people will be asleep, some people will be eating breakfast, someone might, be at work, others might be, in front of a computer or commuting home from whatever they're doing. But taken together, it captures, it creates like a snapshot of both your own life, but also that of society at large, that very, very minute. And then we realized that in order for it to kind of create more like a long-term self-portrait almost of your own life, we should encourage or force the users or participants, as we prefer to call them, to document every single minute in a full 24-hour day. And there's 1,440 minutes in a day. So by sending out one alert per day, and you only have 1 minute to capture whatever's in front of you, the project then takes 1,440 days to complete, which is 3.8 years.
Wow. So
that's why we say it's a marathon and not a sprint.
Yeah, absolutely. And that some of the points that you made there go into how you are not your timeline, your minutia, and I'll go into what it looks like in a minute. Your minutia, say collection of photos, if you like, is so much more different than what your Instagram timeline looks like, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of the absolute opposite. And I base that on both what I end up capturing with the app, but I should also add that once you capture a moment, you have a 1 minute window to capture, to scroll through your own timeline, or you tap a little button and you get matched with one other random participant who also took a photo at that exact minute. But that experience is completely anonymous. There's no way to interact with that person whatsoever. No chat, no likes, no comments, no nothing. So all you get is this kind of very voyeuristic kind of view into a complete stranger's life for a 1 minute window. And after that, the app closes down. But what that provides and what the kind of moments that you end up capturing are, think of them as snapshots of reality. They're no means beautiful, like aesthetically, it's nothing that will, draw you in, but they do provide a kind of a feeling of authenticity of what happened right that minute. So the type of images are very kind of unique in that way. They have almost like a snapshot kind of feeling to it, but it's not snapshots of special strange moments, but rather of moments that are kind of mundane, like sitting in front of your computer or being stuck in traffic or doing the dishes or whatever.
No, absolutely. As someone who's been using the app, I don't know, it feels like I've been using it for about 2 weeks now, since you first got in touch. There's no sort of curation, like user created performance, if you like, because like Instagram it's very highly, especially just speaking from my own experience anyway, it's like highly curated. What do I want people to see? Whereas Minutia, no one else is going to see it apart from that one random person, but you don't even think about them, to be honest, when you're taking your photo, or at least I don't. And yeah, it just removes that. You're forced into. I still find myself still trying to take a good photo. So I'm just actually checking my. I was checking my phone then because I haven't had my Minutiae notification yet. And it may go off during this podcast. So I don't want to miss it.
Yeah. No, it may. So so because the notification occurs once a day, it's semi-randomized. It appear random when you capture them because you can predict exactly when they will occur. But over time, you realize that there is a certain structure to how you receive them. So it does create this kind of notion that over time it allows a very kind of honest self-portrait. I think of it as a long-term self-portrait of what really happened, what actually happened. Not the kind of stuff that we might want to remember from the last 4 years, say, or necessarily the stuff that we want to share with, our friends or that we're proud of. But it's a document of what actually happened, and I think that's kind of makes it interesting in that way.
No, absolutely. Like now, I'm in this room. I'm probably going to move house soon. This is a good This would be a good. I wouldn't capture this room and put it on Instagram, so a picture of this room would be great for me to look back on in like 3 or 4 years time. Like, oh shit, where's that room?
And that's exactly the point. It's like the idea is that we're currently not very good at anticipating what will be important and of significance 5, 10, 15 or even 50 years down the line. What your current situation might not, or environment might currently not seem that important. You go like, well, why should I take a photo of me doing dishes or being stuck in traffic or what have you? But only 5 years from now, a lot of things happen in your life. You might move to a new apartment. Maybe you meet someone new, or God forbid, like someone close to you, passes away. And all of a sudden, the important moments are those kind of the ordinary mundane moments, not the highlights, not the the weddings or the group photo of the family or what have you, but instead it's these kind of reoccurring moments that we actually remember because they make up, in all honesty, 99.9% of our life, and because they're so ordinary, we're really bad at documenting them.
No, absolutely, and it's all relative, isn't it, and perspective, as you mentioned there. I love photography because I take a lot of photos because like you never know the amount of times I've been that like, God, I wish I had a photo of that thing, that seemingly
Right.
at the time random thing, but now in the present it's so important, and I'm gutted. I'm like, I wish I had a picture of that thing, and it's like. It's just that. That's what the app sort of allows you to do. But from a user's point of view, if you download Minutiae, you get a notification. You get about 20. It feels like it doesn't want you to miss it. It's like ding 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 ding, which is fine. And then you have like 5 seconds, and it's counting down. And in that 5 seconds, I'm like, at least try and take what do I want to remember from this moment? Okay, I'm trying to anticipate what I'm going to want to remember in 3 years' time. So, which isn't maybe how the app's intended to be used. Most of the time, though, I do just do that and take whatever's in front of me. And then you can look at it. You get like a timestamp, a date stamp and things like that. And then you have the option to see someone else's, which I have pressed on a few times. And I don't think I will, to be honest, in the future. I found it a bit weird, but that's just me personally. There was like one guy who was from Sweden who took a picture of like his kids eating dinner or whatever meal they were having. I'm like, I don't want to see that, to be honest. And I thought about that from when I was first when you first got in touch with me and I was looking into the app. I'm like, yeah, what if someone just takes a naked picture and puts it on their timeline? I don't want to be matched up with that sort of thing, you know. So,
You know what? It's funny because in the very beginning, this was exactly, you know, when we first start talking about this concept, that was the first thing people said to us. You know, there's going to be, you know, sorry, but like a bunch of dick pics because
no,
it's
it's fine.
anonymous. And it turns out that it's extremely rare that those type of photos appear. And part of that is because you don't know when the alert will happen. And you only have a 1 minute window
Let
to
me just quickly
respond to it.
undress.
Yeah. So in a lot of situations, you probably won't be ready, you know, to perform for the camera, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so in that way, it kind of forces you to honestly just document whatever happens there and then. And it's kind of interesting. You know, this was one of the concerns that we had in the beginning, like, oh my God, what if, you know, but it's been running for 5 years, and I can count the number of times someone has said, hey, look into this, less than 5 times. And in addition, if you, as a user, if you see something that you find offensive, you can also flag it, and it gets kind of removed. So that ability exists, but it's very rare.
So if someone flags something, will you get the ability to look at the offending photo and then decide whether or not the offense is warranted before it gets removed?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's as a case by case basis, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, you know, this is nothing, and sometimes it's okay, right, I understand. So yeah, it depends on.
No, fair enough. Yeah, that's probably the best. Yeah, case by case is definitely the best way to go, isn't it? So yeah, and then like you've got like a grid of like tiny little, I don't know, 4x5 little squares. There'll be screenshots to go with this, by the way, because I've been taking screenshots. And you eventually fill it up, and if you miss a notification, then it just stays black. Which, I don't know, a black square is art, as to some people, I suppose. So it's fine. The black squares don't look that bad in the grid. And then, like you say, after like 3 point something years, you're going to fill that grid up, and then you have the option to buy a book, right? I think you have some books with you?
Yes. So there are a number of options. So once you complete your cycle, you can tap through the images. You can browse your images in the app. Which you're not able to do while you're kind of building your archive. So once you complete it, you can tap anywhere on the screen, and you'll be able to spend as much time as you want just flipping through your images. You also get a zip file containing all the images, and you can do whatever you want with them. And then in addition to that, we have 2 types of books, and I'm gonna hold one up here. So we have there's one here, which is remove that thing here. So this is the standard book. It comes in 2 volumes. It looks like this, and it spans. Let's see if I do just. So it has the manifesto. And explains about the reason why we chose to do it, the UTC. And then through that you have, here I'll show you it.
So is this your personal book?
You have the location. Yeah, so this is my part of the first cycle that I completed. So you have each page is 1 minute. So this is a standard. This is a standard book, and then we also have. Let's see. This is a little bit heavier. Then we also have a limited edition collector's book, and I'm sorry for making these faces, but it's a brick.
Wow.
So it looks like this, and it's we make these in edition of 100, and you have the start date and end date.
Oh yeah. That's great.
There, yeah, and the edition number, so this is something that we also offer for participants who wish to have yeah, something a little bit more special out of it. But then, and we're currently, this is still TBD. I don't know when this will launch, but we're also looking into making posters out of the grid.
Oh, right. That'd
so
be
something
cool.
that you can, yeah, put on your wall. So there are a number of things, and then I should add, and this is something that's kind of fun part of it, is that we began collaborating with Columbia University 2 years ago. So through this collaboration, when you as a participant, when you complete your cycle, you kind of end up on this offboarding website. And you have the ability to opt in to have Columbia acquiring your photos for their archive for future scholars to do research on.
Right.
So that's a really so that's a really interesting part, and a lot of people choose to opt in and to allow Columbia to use their images for future research. So that's another part of it that happens when you complete the cycle.
Cool. So it's like a big time capsule, isn't it? That's it sounds unique. I don't know if there's anything else out there that offers this. It sounds pretty unique to me. And
I mean, I hope not.
Yeah. And as you say, it's not for everyone. Who do you think this sort of, what's the average Minutiae user? Like me, for example, I was born in 1990. I grew up in the 90s without instant gratification and stuff like that. So, and now that I'm 32, I long for those times again of the 90s where, it wasn't like the world is today. Obviously, back in 1990, I couldn't have done it. In the 90s, I couldn't have done this podcast. But I'm not complaining about 2022 from that respect. Do you think users are more likely to be of my generation or a bit older, or not? Definitely not youngsters, or what do you think?
Yeah, in general, I would say it skews a little bit older. When I say older, I would say 25 and up.
Right.
But I mean, it spans all the way up to people in their 60s, 70s. What's really interesting is that because of this span, you get a very kind of unique look into the different kind of stratas of society. In a way, you get both see occasionally college dorms. You see people who might just have moved away from home, people who are raising kids. You see people who are retirees. So it's kind of it's a fairly broad span. But as apps goes, especially in this category, I think that it's a little bit older, and much of that I think is because it's just more people who appreciate the slowness of it. The fact that it takes almost 4 years to complete. I mean, I'm not going to generalize, but if you're 16, 4 years of your life, that's a massive chunk of time. If you're a little bit older, 4 years is not that big of a deal. So it might also have an impact on it. But that being said, we would be happy to have younger participants too, if they're not busy with TikTok and Instagram and everything else.
Absolutely. But something that just came to mind then is it's after 6, which for me means that my personal focus on my iPhone kicks in. So I'm going to turn that off because I've missed a few notifications from Minutiae because of various focus modes on my iPhone. Did you obviously you couldn't have anticipated that issue back when you launched the app. Have you had that feedback from users about the focus modes?
I've had a couple of people who said that they missed notifications, and then once we've kind of dig into it a little bit, the focus definitely has been a culprit. That's the thing, as anyone who is who's developed apps, it's like Apple is just incredibly unpredictable. Whatever they decide to do, you don't have any say. You just have to adapt to it. I believe that even with focus mode, you can adjust it and allow certain apps to overrule the do not disturb, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The app itself also has a do not disturb function, so you can set it so that if there are certain times when you don't want to receive notifications, you can set that up inside the app as well.
Yeah, definitely. You can say, let Minutiae send me notifications even when I'm in this focus mode. So yeah, there's definitely it's not like a deal breaker or anything. And as I say, the black squares do look quite cool in the grid. So missing the odd one is not.
Exactly. I mean, the black squares in a way, also they themselves represent something. Like over time, you I don't know if I should give it away, but over time you will start to see a pattern in when you look at the grid. There is a logic to it, but it's a little bit of an Easter egg. It only becomes apparent as you progress.
I'm curious.
There is a certain logic to it that hopefully will make sense.
There's definitely going to be someone who's figured out what the pattern is to the notifications and has figured out the formula. These people exist. I know, and someone's going to be able to predict when a notification comes through.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's the thing. As you progress towards the end of the cycle, you can kind of start to predict when they will occur. Even though I'm talking about maybe the last 5 days of the cycle, and the cycle continues for 1,440 days. So most of it it's still very random, but as you get closer to the end, it becomes slightly more predictable, but not that much. And I should also add that the app was launched in 2017. So the first participants who signed up in the very beginning, they completed their cycle in I would say, I think it was May of last year. And what was really surprising and really fun was that around that time we received so many emails about people who were asking how they could sign up for a second cycle. And for anyone who's familiar with apps and iPhones, know that it's one of the biggest challenges is to keep people coming back to your app. And it's like people just keep using it. Again, it's like it's either you love it or you're gonna hate it. But for the people who love it, it tends to be a very kind of reoccurring participation. And on that note, I should add that when we launched, my dad was one of the first ones, and we're talking about a man in his mid 70s who, he never usually brings his iPhone with him, and he's a complete technophobe. But I mean, he's been unbelievably dedicated. He's been getting up in the middle of the night, at 2:40 p.m. and photographed, his nightstand with his glasses and the alarm bell and what have you. And what's interesting about this is for me, it also resonates personally because this is something that I can pass on to future generations. When they ask, well, so what was, grandfather, grandpa like? They might not, have memories of him themselves, but this type of photo album it gives a kind of a side that you often don't see. It's a very, very personal kind of experience. So I think that for me, it's also having like my dad participating in it kind of added this kind of notion of the importance of what it is that you're actually documenting in a kind of interesting way.
No, absolutely. Again, that's another layer to it that I hadn't considered, and it is like your photography. Minutiae, the app, is deceptively simple, and I'm trying to, like, when you first got in touch with me and mentioned it, I'm thinking I put my app reviewer's hat on, and I'm thinking, why don't I just take a picture? Why do I have to? And we'll get into cost in a minute. Why why don't I just take a picture myself every single day at random moments? But it just wouldn't work. You just wouldn't do it. The app kind of forces you in a way. But so has it? What's the take up or the uptake? Sorry, been like in terms of? I know you don't call them users, a participant base, and what's the cost? Because thank you for offering me the free subscription, but no, I paid for it like I always do. So what sort of cost are we looking at? And
yeah, so
things?
the funny thing is that when I mention that it's an app, people immediately think it's a startup, and they assume that we received funding and all this kind of stuff, and none of it could be further away from the truth. It's actually built on an art grant I received a number of years ago, and so it's led by me. I'm the one who's basically doing everything except for the coding part. But it's a fully artist-led kind of endeavor in that sense. So in order to sustain the project, we have a monthly subscription, which is 99 cents. I don't know what's in pound. I think it's maybe 79 pounds or something like that.
I think it's 79p. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have an annual subscription as well at $9.99 that is a year, which I think it's very reasonable, giving the what you get for it. And I should also say that in addition to the photos that you capture with the moment, we also store high-res photos that's used for the books and that kind of stuff. So we store kind of a different sizes on it. But it's like and this is the reason why we chose to do it this way, was in order to really create a kind of a counter reaction to social media, which is basically you give something away for free and then you hook people and you just try to keep them engaged all the time in order to sell them revenue or to sell them ads. And unfortunately today there aren't a ton of different ways to monetize or to keep something just sustainable. So we kind of, even from the very beginning, we said, no, it has to be a paid experience, because otherwise, how are we going to pay for server costs? How are we going to pay for, most importantly, the development and upkeep, which is very, very expensive of an app. So, and there are definitely people who say, no, I'm not going to do it. And, that's fine. But if that's something that, if you feel like you like to support independent art projects, then I think that, it's not a big deal.
No, the cost doesn't seem that steep to me. And I was just thinking about that when you were talking about the cost of apps versus the age of the user base again. Like I remember when apps were, well, they weren't even called apps, they were programs, and they were, and like you had to pay for your operating system every time it was updated and things. Like, so now we run into this. There's a whole podcast just talking about the prices of apps and users complaining about the price of certain apps and stuff. So maybe that could be another sort of barrier almost for the younger generation who aren't used to paying for stuff.
I think so. And of course, I mean, it's like you have this sensation of, you think and it feels like it's free, even though you are the product. Why would you pay for it? And it's just like everything. If it's free, someone pays for it at some point, and it's up to you as a user of an app whether or not you feel like that's justified or not. I feel like also, like as you kind of grow perhaps a little bit older as well, you start to value these things a little bit more. So I think that that resonates, and also the fact that again, it's not a startup. The goal of the project is not to maximize profits. The goal is to create a very different and unique experience. That's the sole focus of the project, and by doing that, that also means that there's no compromise. This is the vision, and that if we wanted to grow this into a multi-million-dollar waste, we would have to shave off basically a lot of things and just added a bunch of emoji stickers and widgets and what have you, and make it free. And I personally, as an artist and photographer, I have no interest in doing that. For me, the project itself is something that I enjoy the experience of taking photos with it, but I also enjoy just getting the feedback. I mean, I would say almost on a weekly basis, I receive emails from people who tell them how the app changed their life, how they start to see patterns in their life that they might not be comfortable with, and how the app kind of encouraged them to change. They realize that, oh my God, I'm spending all this time watching TV. And
right.
the app in a way kind of becomes a bit of a wake-up call. So I think that kind of it resonates in that way. But again, this is the interesting parts of apps is also that you have a enormous amount of potential participants, way more than if you just did a book and it was in a bunch of bookstores. But the downside is also that you're competing with these massive corporations who are, have very, very deep pockets, and kind of breaking through that is very, very hard. And in all transparency, that's why I reached out to you, and I was interested to talk about you, because I think this is a really great way of talking to people who actually care about these things in a very honest fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm completely honest. I have no skin in the game whatsoever. I just want to learn. I like to meet interesting people and talk about interesting things and share it with my audience and things like that. So yeah, absolutely. But there was a few trains of thought there that I wanted to go down, and one of them I think you touched on. Well, okay, one of them is competition, but keep that as like a placeholder just for 1 second, because there's another one here. Of there's a whole other conversation, and this isn't really necessarily what the podcast is about, but I would love to discuss probably with yourself just the effects of social media on society. You've probably seen The Social Dilemma, the film. I really enjoyed that. There's definitely it was very, very, very interesting, and I'm surprised that Netflix put it out. But anyway, I don't want to really go down that rabbit hole today, to be honest. You mentioned competition. It's interesting. I wouldn't see Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat as competition to Minutiae, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not in any way, shape, or form. I think when I say competition, is more in fact of getting it in front of an audience who resonate with a project like this. And in order to do that, usually what you would do is you would run ads. It's either word of mouth, which is basically how the app has grown, or press, which we also got a lot of. But that's just like the kind of the very bottom of it. I would say every app spend up to, I think, close to 50, if not more, % of their income on running ads. And these ads are very, very expensive. So in order to just break through that kind of barrier, you need a lot of money. And that's why a lot of these, startups and apps, that's why they raise millions of dollars. It's not because of developers. It's because it costs a lot of money to acquire new users through incentives, through running ads, etc. So that's the kind of the biggest challenge by being a small art project, is that the way people find out about it is through word of mouth, or they read about it, or through occasions like this.
Yeah, it's more natural, isn't it? And things, which is good. I've just noticed that because I'm being lit by a window, I'm going dark. So
I can tell you, it's beginning to fade.
I'm slowly fading away, Martin. No. It's funny. Like with social media, there's a very popular phrase. I think we've said it a couple of times even during this conversation. You are the product. When it's free, you are the product. And with Minutiae, you are the product as well, but you're your own product. You're not. It's the same. It's like a parallel universe, but there's a little key difference in. You know what? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the difference with Minutiae is that also, like, you primarily do it for yourself. It's not a performance.
Yeah.
You don't do it in order to satisfy anyone else, in order to gain popularity, in order to boost whatever it is. It's like, this is purely a form of self-documentation, and it's a long form of self-documentation. And that's really the very kind of the core principle of it. You do it for yourself, not for anyone else.
So has user uptake been what you expected or what you wanted it to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's actually way beyond our expectations. So when we launched it, and even before we launched it, like, not in a million years would we think anyone would be crazy enough to take photos for 1,440 days. Especially not the type of photos that we usually associate with cameras and apps. And so what we call in the app world a retention rate. It's just incredible.
We have the same thing on YouTube. Retention.
Yeah. This retention rate, which basically means people who kind of come back and either view a video or use an app or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's quite it's quite striking how many people have chosen to continue to participate, and to the point that of those who begin, 40% actually complete their cycle 1,440 days later, and that's, per my understanding, that's kind of on par with a lot of the social media giants, which is kind of ironic, but without providing the kind of toxic incentive structure that these apps run on. So I think that's a testament to the simplicity of the idea, and the fact that as you use the Minutiae, you continue to see kind of progress in your life in ways that feels, I think, unexpected. As you said, it's like you're about to move, or you move away from an apartment, and you document stuff. And I, like, as a reference, when I started my first cycle, I lived in another apartment, and took photos of the sink and what have you. And now 5 or 6 years later, I was like, oh, that's right. I looked through these books that we've been in, like, yes, that's right. That's what it looks like. And it's not the quality of the photo that's important, but rather it's the memory associated with that photo. So every time I open the app and I look at that photo, I remember everything that happened around that moment. I remember, yes, that's right. Back then, I was often working late, and I was often preparing dinner late, etc. So it's more a way to, kind kind of access memories that you might not have easily access to otherwise.
No, absolutely. Something interesting happened. I think it was a few months ago or last year now. I think Facebook went down big time for a good few hours, and I'm not on. I'm on Facebook now for my day job, but only because I sort of have to be. Personally, I would never go on it and things. But it's like, yeah, Facebook's down. Great. No, fantastic. This is wonderful. If Minutiae went down, you'd be like, oh, I'm halfway through my thing. It would actually feel, you'd be sad. Like, you're not completed your thing.
Your cycle, yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, that has never been the case. The servers are very reliable, I must say. And also, part of it is because you only use it for 1 minute per day. We're less susceptible to servers, not working, because it really only needs to work for 1 minute a day, and if it's down the rest of the time, it's not going to affect the project.
So one final question about that before I fade away completely. Do you? Where are these servers? Who has access to them? It says in the manifesto we're not interested in your data, but who can see your photos apart from the other random person?
I mean, no one really. It's like any other kind of back-end solution. It's stored according to a certain logic, and I, as the person who's kind of in charge of it, if I wanted to, I could go in and remove, or if there's anything like that. It never happens, and I have no intention to. And needless to say, I think that we just passed, or we're getting close to 1 million captured moments. So there's a lot of photos that has been taken, and I have I have more important things than to go through a random person's album. And that I should also mention that it's anonymous, by the way, that when you sign up, we can only identify you through your email address. So we don't know anything about the person who signed up or who used that email address. So it's and a lot of this, you will see this in a lot of apps. They will ask you for consent to collect their data. We don't do any of that. So when I say that we don't know who our participants are, I really mean it. I have no clue except for a bunch of email addresses that
you don't ask for permission to access to photos. I don't think there's the location, which is I think is a good thing, because then you can put a location to the photo. But apart from that, there's nothing else, is there?
Yeah,
really?
The only thing we ask permission for is for notification, obviously, the camera, which you need in order to participate, and the location, which you don't have to give if you don't want to. I personally find that adds kind of another level to it, but it's not mandatory. But what is mandatory is obviously the camera and the notifications.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to check I'm going to check mine one more time in case I've not missed it.
Do it.
Nope, still nothing. I was hoping it would go off, and then I'd be able to take a picture.
The randomization is it's not in my hands.
No. So I think that was everything. Is there anything you wanted to add? Do you think is important about?
No, I think that maybe the kind of interesting. So right now we're entering a kind of a second phase in our collaboration with Colombia. So my personal goal of Minutiae is to make it the longest running art project ever. I want this to run until 2050 at least. And so right now we're working on how to create an archive, obviously with participants' consent. so we can store this for future generations. Because what's interesting about our current moment is that currently when you snap a photos, we take this for granted. Like you snap a photo of your TV, or you snap a photo of the street. But in 20 years from now, there is very likely that there will be self-driving cars, and there's also fairly likely that we won't eat meat produced from animals, but there will be some kind of other variations, and that we might not be staring at a big black thing called a television.
Yeah.
So over time, it also creates a very kind of unique window, more of a historical purpose, that I think is really, really interesting. And what's unique about Minutiae is that it's, we have participants in there are like a couple of countries in Central Africa where we don't have a big participant base. If you live in Central Africa and watching this, please sign up. But otherwise, we have participants from almost every single country. So together, you capture these moments for yourself, and it's a kind of a reflection of your life, but it's also a reflection of society at large. And over time, it paints a very, very interesting picture of what actually happened. And specifically now, we've been going through a pandemic, which is historic by all proportions. So it creates and it provides a very unique insight into society, and not necessarily the highlights, but again the in-between moments, which I personally find to be more interesting than the typical historical moments. And I usually use this reference just as a kind of point to point that out. For anyone who's ever kind of gone through their grandparents' photo album, most of them, there are like these, there are weddings, there are these kind of staged photos, family photos of like 3 generations together. But occasionally, every now and then, you see a photo, someone testing if there's film in the camera. They might have snapped a photo of the china or like the carpet. And often those type of moments, those type of photos say so much more about what their lives were like, as opposed to the staged photos. And so Minutiae in many ways are similar to that, but we are documenting, from 2017 forward. So in a way, our grandchildren will be able to look back on 2022 and say, "Oh my God, that's what it looked like. Oh, Jesus Christ," So that's what I also find really interesting, that it's also like a very historic document in that sense.
No, definitely. It's interesting what you say about those sort of pictures being more interesting. Whenever someone hires me as a photographer to cover an event or something, I will flat out refuse to pose you. I will not have that. It's all reportage style. It's all candid stuff. It's so much more authentic, as you say, so much more engaging and real. It's just real, isn't it?
They can do that for Instagram or for anything else. There's plenty of posting if that's what you're into.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I said at the beginning, thanks very much for chatting to me. I'd definitely be interested in going more into your other side outside of Minutiae as a photographer, and as someone who seems very well traveled with your projects. I think. Again, the Suburbia one, you've been to like Bangkok and Moscow and all these places all around the world. By the way, again, people watching, go and check out Martin's portfolio, Martin's other interests and stuff. It's really interesting stuff. If you're into photography.
For that one, I disguised as a potential home buyer. So I had a little, I think it was a Canon 5D Mark II at the moment, and I had it stuffed in a little bag, and I had a assistant with me, a local assistant with me, whose job it was to keep the sales rep busy and just ask them about, the cabinets or the bathroom or what have you. Meanwhile, I was running around like crazy, 5-10 minutes in each place and just snapping photos of, the bedroom, the pool, the bathroom, what have you. and kind of telling a story about globalization from kind of visual perspective of what it actually looks like when more and more people consume the same type of entertainment and information, and what the result of that is. But yeah, we'll save that. That's a teaser. We save that for the next time.
Something I'm very interested in. That podcast could go in a number of weird and wonderful ways. So, yeah, definitely stick around. I was debating actually before we picked up this call. I filmed my intro, and I was saying to the black void of this camera, which has a filter on it. I mean, which I might take off just for the past few minutes, just so maybe there's some more light gonna come my way if I can get this filter
your way.
off.
Yeah, exactly.
But like I've done. Is that any? It is better. Look at that. It's
there you go. Yeah. So all of a sudden it's daylight. Yes.
This is a circular polarizing filter.
Okay.
Yeah, surprising how much light those things stop out. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, so this is episode 9 of my podcast. I was thinking, like, should I do 10 and then just bounce? And then I speak to you and I'm like, no, I can't just do 10 and then bounce. I need to keep it going. But it's going to be a much. It's for me now. It's not for the algorithm or the retention or the click-through rate. It's for me, and it's for you to learn. Come on my journey with me. When I finish my Minutiae journey, I'm going to be able to look back and see how far I've come. And this podcast is the same sort of thing.